Good afternoon. I'm Matt Miller, in today for Dylan Ratigan. The big story is jobs, and you and I know it'll be the big story from now until Election Day next November. That means the politicizing of the jobs issue is set to reach new logic-defying heights. That's right. We're in for another year of posturing and tinkering at the edges instead of solutions. The Democrats say the new unemployment rate of 8.6%, a two-year low down from 9%, shows we're on the right track. While Republicans say the 120,000 jobs added last month is so meager, it'll take a decade for us to get real job growth. Not to mention that the real unemployment rate is stagnant at 18%. As Dylan would say, let the pro wrestling begin. Give a listen.
Despite some strong headwinds this year, the American economy has now created in the private sector jobs for the past 21 months in a row. That's nearly 3 million new jobs in all.
More than 300,000 Americans left the labor force last month. That means they stopped looking for work. And I think we should all be concerned about that.
I hate to sound like a broken record. We could create an almost unlimited number of jobs out of this, even in this lousy economy, even with all this embedded mortgage crisis, if we can work out the financing.
If you look at the number of new jobs created, there's just not enough new jobs being created in America.
Everyone's got an opinion. No one's got an answer. Here on the DR Show, we're about to launch what America really needs, a 30 million jobs tour early next year. Stay tuned for details on that coming soon. But for now, to get behind today's jobs numbers, let's turn to our dynamic duo of jobs report dissection, the Cape Crusaders of economic analysis. Peter Morici, former chief economist for the International Trade Commission and professor at the University of Maryland Smith School of Business, and MSNBC contributor Jared Bernstein, senior fellow at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, as well as Vice President Biden's former chief economist. Welcome, jobs superheroes, both of you. Jared, let me start with you. As I understand it, the unemployment rate went down this month because a lot of people got discouraged from, aren't looking for work, and so that sort of takes out the denominator. Is this the secret White House jobs plan to discourage enough people from working so we can push down the numbers to 7% by Election Day?
Well, first of all, thanks for making me and Peter sound a lot more exciting than I typically think of us. But no, it's definitely not a secret plan. In fact, the numbers are right there in the report. And you're right to focus on them. At least half of the decline in unemployment from 9% to 8.6% is attributable to this fall in the labor force. Lots of folks giving up, getting out of the picture. So I don't think it means that the numbers are cooked or the White House is trying to push anything. I think what's important to recognize is that as we're generating around 120,000 jobs a month, that's about the trend that we've been at for the past few months. That's just about good enough to hold steady. And if you factor in that distortion to the unemployment rate, we're hanging around 9%. And in fact, if we don't undertake some of the very important measures that are out there that we need to get into this system, to get that unemployment rate moving down, it's just not really that much of a reason why it should start heading south.
Now, Peter, this is what frustrates me about this debate, because even if you support extending the payroll tax cut or deepening it the way the White House and the Democrats are trying to do, this is still tinkering at the edges. The estimates I've seen is maybe that will create at best 1 million or 2 million jobs over the next year. I understand that's something, but there's 25 million Americans who want full-time work who can't find it. What are we doomed to another year of just this kind of posturing?
Unfortunately, we are. A payroll tax cut, while it's going to be difficult to oppose in the end, gives us about 35,000 jobs a month. But only for a year. If you don't extend the payroll tax cut, they go away. And we need 13.1 million jobs over the next 3 years to get unemployment down to 6%. To do that, we have to tackle the tough structural problems that neither the president nor Speaker Boehner have been willing to address. And those are the huge trade deficit with China, all that domestic oil and gas that we could develop and develop more safely than the oil and gas we use from abroad. Streamline regulation. We certainly know the banks need to be regulated, but it's getting too expensive to do. After all, that's why we've added 120,000 bureaucrats over the last 2 years or so. And we need to do something about high health care costs. The health care reforms simply didn't get it done.
Now, Jared, you've obviously you worked for the White House. You've been in the room in these meetings. The White House, for good reason, is trying to say that we're at least moving in the right direction. What do you think the politics of this are now, and the economics? I mean, I think they feel like they've got a tiger by the tail with the payroll tax cut, and juxtaposing that with the the Republicans defending a handful of the rich, for a straight swap on that tax cut. Is that basically the kind of message we're going to be hearing? And is that really, maybe that's enough to get to 50% plus one, but is there anything that's going to go bigger on the job side?
Well, I think the combination of the kind of message and framing that you just correctly identified, Matt, in context, though, in context of an unemployment rate that's really coming down. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to get out there and make your case if the economy is truly stuck in the mud. But if things are improving, even if they're improving slowly, and 1 month does not a trend make, I mean, we've been talking about how that decline in the unemployment rate, we'll have to see if that really sticks. But I actually do believe that if the payrolls continue to generate somewhere between 100, 150,000 per month, if the unemployment rate really does start to tick down, and you have this framing where the president can, by the way, totally legitimately argue that he's got some plans that would help. Now, will they get you to 13 million? Of course not. But will they add a couple of million jobs to the economy, which we absolutely could use right now? I mean, this really is a don't let the good be the enemy of the best moment. And I agree with you and Peter. We've got to do a ton more. But moving in the right direction a little more quickly, and certainly targeting those in Congress who are blocking those measures, I think that's a legitimate platform.
Now, Peter, when you look at what's going on in Europe and the fact that they're still, despite some of the central bank action this week, they're still kind of on the brink. What happens there could have more impact on the job situation in the next 12 months in the U.S. than any of the kind of smaller measures that Washington and the White House are considering right now. How worried are you about the impact of that, and what would the impact be under whatever scenario you think is most likely?
Well, no matter which way it goes, I think it's going to be bad. You know, if the Germans pull off this greater fiscal union, their prescription is draconian austerity for everybody but the Germans. And as a consequence, Europe will be thrust into a pretty terrible recession. And that can't be good for the United States. So much of the gains that we made in manufacturing have been through exports, and Europe is our largest export market, and that is about to collapse. If they don't come to a conclusion, we're going to have a period of moderate chaos in Europe as they rearrange financial arrangements with their restored national currencies. Either way, it's hard to see a positive outcome. Today I debated the majority whip from the House of Parliament there, and I frankly thought he was in another space when it came to economics. I don't believe the Germans have a grasp of how much heck and havoc they are imposing on the rest of the continent.
Now, Jared, help me, because I'm naive here. If we've got a year to go before the election, I understand what the White House message is, but I don't understand if they're going to have a hard time passing anything. Why won't the president propose something that's much more equal to the size of the challenge and fight for that? You know, adopt your school's repair program, but on a mega scale. Go much bigger on all this, so at least he could say, I've got a plan that will create 10 million jobs over the next 2 years, and the Republicans are blocking me.
I actually agree with you. I mean, I think that would be smart. And I actually thought that the American Jobs Act, it is $450 billion of stimulus, so it's not trivial. I actually thought there was a lot to that. The only problem with the scenario you're laying out, Matt, is that we are in, and I don't agree with this either, but we happen to be very much in a climate where whatever you propose, you have to propose to pay for it. You simply can't go out there with today's politics. It's actually a real problem. There's a very deep misunderstanding of the issue of Keynesian economics and temporary deficits. But given that misunderstanding, the fact that I think policymakers have that wrong, it's very tough to go out there and say we should do this mega program and put it on the credit card. I think that probably would cause the president a lot more problems than it would solve.
All right, Jared Bernstein and Peter Morici, our dynamic duo, our Cape Crusaders. We're going to leave it there. You know, I just don't know how we're going to solve this without the boundaries of debate being challenged, Jared. I understand what you're saying, but
I agree
we'll
with
fix
you,
it.
Matt.
We'll fix it next time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, guys.